Hello, hi, welcome back to our podcast, The Other Side, where we bring industry leaders to talk to us about people capabilities and employee engagement. What is happening in the industry on these two topics, and how we should be prepared on these two topics after the lockdown. And today, our fourth guest is Bob, and Bob is from UK. He is an actor, a trainer, and he owns a training company. Let's see what he and his partner doing for their clients in UK. People, are you ready? Let's jump right in. And we will pause for 5 seconds. Well, hello, Bob. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful to see you after 7 or 8 years.
I think it is. Yes, indeed. Nice to see you too, Raj.
Awesome. And it had to be this lockdown to bring us together.
It's bringing lots of people together. That's one good thing about it.
That's one good thing about it. Absolutely. So, welcome to this preparedness series that we've put together. We bring industry leaders like you to talk to us about people capabilities and employee engagement. And we want to take your opinion, your perspective on these two topics. And it'll be so beautiful and wonderful to hear a perspective outside India.
Okay.
So we would like to see what is UK doing, how the clients are responding there, how the consultants are planning their business now and post lockdown. Okay.
Okay. That's fine.
So Bob, I only know you because we've, I think, collaborated on one project with you, and that too about 7 years back,
That's right.
right? So we would like to know, who is Bob?
Okay. Well, that's a very good question, and I'm not sure I can answer it fully, but I'll do my best. So, I'm Bob Morrell. I work with a business partner who Raj has also met, called Jeremy Blake, and we run this brand. You can see the brand behind me, Reality Training. And we have been training now, it's hard to believe it, for 18 years. And thank you. And over those years, we have traveled all over to India, but also across the US, across Europe. Most of our work is in the UK. But going back much further than that, going back 30 odd years, we originally met at drama school. Jeremy and I were actors. And we were going to be very famous actors. That was our plan. And I was thinking, actually, maybe we should have come to India. We'd have had better luck, possibly.
Bollywood.
But yes, possibly. But anyway, clearly our acting careers didn't take the direction that we had hoped. But we also became salespeople. And
Super nice. But what I am more interested in, Bob the actor, and maybe before that, where was Bob's childhood?
okay, well, I grew up in England, in the county of Kent, which is just south of London. And I still live in Kent now. And Kent is known as the Garden of England.
Wow.
And there's some beautiful gardens in India, I know, but in England we have a few counties that are known, and the reason that Kent is called that is because this is where much of the fruit of the UK, apples, pears, it's all grown in this area.
Wow.
And now we actually have vineyards in this area making wine, English wine, which isn't too bad actually. And so there's very much a kind of a fruit feeling around here. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I was very much a product of my era, Raj. And I was into Duran Duran, Prince, all those sorts of bands, going back into the 80s.
Awesome.
And then I got my first sales job in 1988. And I was in sales for many years before going to drama school. But whilst I was growing up, I appeared in lots of productions. So plays, pantomimes, which is like a family show, and so lots of little things like that got me interested in acting.
Okay.
And I loved, dressing up and playing a character. And then when you go to drama school, of course, they strip all that away, and you learn how to act correctly, and for film and for TV and stuff like that. So that was a natural pathway for me back then.
Is there where you met Jeremy as well?
Yes. So he was at the same drama school as me. He's younger than me, bizarrely, though you wouldn't believe it. And he was in the year above me. And when we first met, we weren't the best of friends. And time went on, and we grew to like each other. And it was interesting because when we decided to form a business, it was interesting because I think we're both very, very different. And so that's quite important, I think, that you have that difference in type. If we'd both been very similar, I'm not sure it would have worked. But because we have different strengths, then that keeps us pulling in the right direction. So that was a good thing. And actually, I think the world of learning and development and training and human resources and consultancy it's all acting to some degree, because you are projecting something, you are projecting knowledge, you're projecting change. And I think that's a very hard thing to get across unless you're presenting it in the right way. And presenting is very much what we do.
Right. So tell us, drama and training. Now I can understand with your definition, but 18 years back, what made you guys jump into it?
Well, we had both had good sales jobs, and we both had some good training. So that's the big difference. That Jeremy had worked for a brand called Yellow Pages. I don't know whether they still exist your way, but Yellow Pages used to be massive directory company, and they had excellent training. And I worked for a number of big brands, a number of US brands. And when we were trained, I remember absorbing the information, but I also remember thinking, well, I could do that. I could stand there and do that, and I could do it differently. And part of it was also this thing that, as you will know, when you do training, you have a room full of people, and some people, let's say at least half, don't want to do any type of role play at all.
Yeah.
Okay, because they find it embarrassing and they're just not confident enough to do it. So we thought, okay, if we have two people, we can deliver the training, we can demonstrate the interaction as many times as they like, they can see it working, and that will then help hopefully give them the confidence to try it themselves. And that was our thing. And to be honest with you, I don't know any other training companies at that time who had two trainers going out on all of the delivery. So that was a point of differentiation that we had as well.
It's rare. It's now also it's very rare that
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. So, sorry.
No, after you.
Was it easy? No. No.
No, it's always hard. And you'll know this. Selling training is hard. Because people sometimes don't want to admit that they need it. And sometimes you need to spend time working with a company to then say, look, this is what you need. And they go, okay, because sometimes people think that their way of doing it is right. And it's not easy. What I think has helped us is the idea that you don't have to have 12 people in a room. It's perfectly fine to do that. But if you can get 70, 100 people in a room, actually they can all experience the same thing. So if you are an organization that has large numbers, then you can get those people through a really good training course quite quickly. And for us as actors, it's nice to have a larger audience because you're playing to 100 people as opposed to 12, and it's like a show. It's like a day-long show. And I think that's the other thing. I see it that way. For me, I see it as a performance every time. I don't know if Jeremy would see it that way, but I definitely do. And so for me, it's about getting the show right, getting the laughs at the right time, getting people to enjoy it, making it memorable, making it entertaining. And I think that makes it easier to sell because it's not just a straightforward training day where you take people through the slides, and there's nothing wrong with that. We just try and deliver something that's a bit different. And funny enough, someone came to see us recently, and we were delivering some training, and they were thinking of delivering it themselves whilst they were watching us. And when they watched it, they said, I can do it, but not the way you do it. And I thought, well, great. If that's the way it has to be, then fine, we'll do it. And that's been our big thing, is to make sure that the way we deliver it is the kind of reality way, and I think that's what people buy.
Awesome. And what are those 2 or 3 things that really work besides the 2 trainer format, the large participant format, but at the same time, did 2 things came on your way? One is, most of our clients says, well, if I put 25, 30 people in a classroom, will it be effective enough? And the second question that comes is, oh, you guys are expensive.
Yes. Well, people have always said that, no matter what we charge. So, that's, that just goes with it. But I think we've been going long enough now. I mean, the 2 things. So first of all, the larger audience, the biggest issue you get with 35, 40 plus people in a room is not so much the numbers. It's people worrying that if they take people off a sales floor for a day, it's going to affect demand. So that's the biggest concern. But I personally think that you're better off doing that for a day rather than having lots of small groups coming off for a day and it taking longer. So that's, you've got to weigh those 2 things up. In terms of cost, I think what's really important is that what we deliver is a sales model. It's there to increase sales, to increase conversion, to increase net promoter score and transaction values and all that type of thing. If I wasn't confident that we could do that, then we couldn't sell it at all. So, whatever we're being paid, we know that what they pay us is very low compared to the upswing that they're going to get from those different measures. So I think that's the key thing. And it reminds me of something Zig Ziglar, the great American sales trainer, said. He said, you can't sell anything to anyone unless you're convinced it's worth more to them than the money they're paying you for it. And I think that's it with training. If you just think it's, you're ticking a box, well, there's lots of companies that can help you do that. But if you want to make a change that's lasting and sustained, then actually it shouldn't really matter what you pay for it as long as it delivers that change. And I think that's what we've been able to do.
Super nice. Well, how's March been for you?
Okay, so we've had a really interesting few weeks. When I think back to the way things were going at the start of the year, we were meeting in London and having development days and making plans, and all sorts of great ideas were coming out. And then this thing comes along, and everything stops. I mean, literally everything stops. and our offices are shut and we're working from home and all of those different changes come in. With ourselves, what we've tried to do as a company is do a couple of things every day for free that we just put out into social media. So on our Facebook page, the Reality Training Facebook page, we do a daily 9 o'clock message. And in those first 2 weeks, we were doing Winston Churchill. We were doing great leaders. We were doing it's okay to be worried, and just trying to reassure people and give them some inspiration in some form. And then on LinkedIn, we were doing more specific advice for different types of organization, just trying to do some how-to guides just to give people some short free development opportunities, because everyone's sitting at home wondering what's going to happen. Well, you may as well learn something new and think about how you can adapt and change. So that's what we did. We now continue to do that. So we still do our 9 o'clock motivational thing every day. I did one this morning about nurses. It's International Nursing Day. And so we did a piece about nurses. But then we also do our LinkedIn pieces about leadership and things like that. So that's what we've continued to do right the way through, because you don't know what people are going to need. And we have expertise in certain areas, which is what we train in. And so until such time as people know what they want, we're just going to give people as much as we can, and with the best of intentions, in the hope that helps them.
That's great.
And I think for many businesses, they may have to wait a year till they return to profitability, till they return to productivity, till they return to anything like normality. I think it's probably going to take a year. And I think people just, need sometimes to think that way.
So are you worried about your business?
No, I was in the early stages, definitely. But as I say, we've been doing this 18 years. We are pretty solid. We're very lucky. And I'm optimistic about the subsequent years. I know this year is going to be hard. We'll get through it, and it'll be hard, but we'll be okay. And I don't put that down to anything other than circumstances and the length of time that we've been in business. That's the only thing which has kept us where we are. And I would also say I'm very lucky. I've got a business partner who's creative and innovative and always thinking of new things. We've got a brilliant lady who works with us called Anne Harris, who supports us and works out all our logistics. We've got a wonderful lady called Maxine who does all our administration and our training materials and our newsletters and what have you. And so it's a very good, well-oiled machine that keeps things moving. And as long as we keep our focus, I think we'll be okay. I do worry that certain brands will sometimes try anything during a period like this. And I think sometimes you just replan, refocus. What are you good at? What are you best at? And stick to that.
Right. How ready were you from the virtual standpoint?
Not particularly. I mean, we have done, as executive coaches, we've done virtual coaching for years. So that's fine, through Skype or whatever. What was new to us were things like Zoom, Teams, GoToTraining, these other online tools which we hadn't used before because we just hadn't had to use them. But the actual format of training virtually was fine for us. There are issues with larger companies who have, difficult IT to get your stuff through into. Those are kind of logistical things. And also broadband. Not everyone's broadband is that good. So in fact, I'm pretty certain that the broadband in India and other countries is in many cases a bit more sturdy than ours, because ours comes and goes a bit even now, and that's something that we're going to need to get right. But I think the actual virtual interaction for us was pretty good, and we've since, in the last few weeks, moved from small group meetings to larger 20, 30, 40 people on a meeting, and that's worked brilliantly. And we're very lucky. For years, Jeremy and I have been speaking at conferences and facilitating conference sessions, and this is very similar. So for us, it's like presenting a virtual conference, and we can still do our banter and our usual comedy stuff and get our messages across, and it's just done virtually. And actually, in some ways, it's more convenient. And when we have a break, I can go and make a cup of tea. So it actually is. There are big advantages to it. But no, the actual virtual element is okay. I think it's more okay for people like you and me. I'm not so sure it's still okay for people who are on the receiving end. They're still getting used to muting. They're still getting used to the kind of rules of engagement. But that's only a short thing. I think people will soon be very used to this.
Yeah. And then we are not even getting to know the participant, but the family members too. Because
Exactly.
somebody's always walking behind or something is happening.
Oh, yes. I mean, I probably had a few people walking here. I got this screen because I thought, the last thing you guys need to see is the mess behind. So, you just put this up, and it actually works fine. And and there's a few other simple things. I mean, I this chair I got from my son's room because it's his gaming chair, and it's the comfiest chair in the house. So I thought, I'm having that. So there's certain things that once you get set up, it's absolutely fine.
You no longer a favorite daddy now?
I'm afraid not. I had to buy him another one.
Cool. So and what do you think? Is this gonna stay, the virtual thing?
I think for the next year, I think it's pretty much going to have to. I was talking to a client yesterday, and I said, why don't I buy a camper van, and then I can drive up to where you are, I can sleep in the camper van, cook my own food, wear a mask, and come in and do the training. And I think that's a bit extreme. So that's probably not going to happen. So this is what it's going to be for a while. So for training, this is it, unless you have some, I don't know, a massive room that people can come into with huge spacing. I'm not sure that's possible.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do think is going to happen much quicker is virtual selling. So I think if we think about the markets that you and I know well, if you think about contact centers, sales teams working in their pods, whatever it may be, if you think about the last few weeks, this thing, the camera, has suddenly come into its own. And we are all having these conversations over cameras and using the internet. And it's not so much of a stretch to think, well, actually, why don't we move from the telephone to this with customers to have virtual contact center conversations? And I think that's what the future really is, and it won't be for everyone. There are lots of people who work in contact centers because they don't want to be seen, and I can purely understand that. But if you're confident, then why not have a one-to-one with a customer? And also, there's brilliant software now you can get, so you can bring in product information whilst you're talking. And I think that's a brilliant sales tool. And so I know that was happening already over the last 12 months, 18 months. All that will happen now is this situation will mean that'll happen much quicker. And we will have new teams being created who will be virtual teams, seeing the customer eye to eye, having a conversation. But I also think that will create two other issues. We will need people who are multi-skilled. So I think that's another big shift. So if I come through a portal like this and I'm speaking to a person, I don't want that person just to be a new business person or just to be a retention person or just to be a billing person. I want that person to be able to do everything.
Right.
So that's a big shift. And of course, you're going to need to really train that person well, because if we're face to face having a business conversation, I don't want to turn to my manager and go, excuse me, Mr. Manager, can I do this? Because that's going to weaken my position hugely. So we're going to need to train people to be empowered to make decisions and have conversations in a much more individual way. So I think that's the good thing about virtual. I think it's going to be a way of training people, but I think it's also going to be how many of us will do business moving forward, and we're just going to have to get used to it. And we used to do conference calls a lot. Do you remember conference calls? Everyone used to do conference calls. I remember when we first came to India, we did conference calls for days. I remember Jeremy sitting in a room in London on a call to you guys and everybody else. There were people from all over the world on that conference call. And he was talking away, and I thought, there's so many people on that call. If he stops, he's never going to be able to speak again. So I was saying to him, just keep going, just keep talking, just fill the space, just keep talking. He was like, really? I said, just keep going. If they get in, you're not going to be able to say anything. So we had to keep going. And I think what's great about these systems now is that you get rid of that. You don't need to have that conference call mentality. You can see everyone. You can use the different rules of engagement. And I think it will become the way that we do big meetings and big business. It'll become a habit that we then can't break. At the moment, it's a new habit and people are still getting used to it. But in a year or so, this will be how all of us do things, and we'll be perfectly happy doing it.
So it'll be a huge jump in the virtual world, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Are they talking to you specifically about people capabilities, employee engagement, how the future will be for these two things?
In some cases, yes, when they have a certainty as to what the future is going to be. In some cases, it's more short term. So I think a good example is, let's imagine you've got a lot of people who've been off for a few months who are coming back into work. So what you don't want is them to dip when they come back in terms of attitude, performance, skills, and then slowly come up. You want them to come in and take off as quickly as possible. I think that's where people need help. So I think there's an understanding that that's important. But I think they're still slightly nervous about what the shape of their business is going to be like when they are back and running again. So that's the two things fight against each other a bit. When I was talking earlier about a manager managing people from home, managing people remotely, I think part of that is understanding that some of those people will be really struggling mentally to work from home. Yeah. And if that's the case, maybe for them to go into an office every day was the best thing. And so maybe you need to look at how you restructure your business so that those who can and are happy to work from home are doing that, and those that are happier and getting more from their job by coming into the office do that. And I think that's a decision that many people haven't faced. I was thinking about this earlier. Some people haven't thought about people's hours. If you're a 9 to 5 business or a 12 to 7 business or whatever your hours are, that's how you've been for years. And now we're thinking, well, I want my people to be safe. I don't want them to get on commuter trains or to have to drive a long way or anything like that. So I need to stagger the shifting patterns when people come into my business, which means those people need to be managed differently, which means that could impact their mental health in some way because they're changing their hours. There's all those things to consider that we previously hadn't, because everything that we did before was within the confines of a structure that we understood and that we knew really well. And I think that will be the shift now is, okay, I've got all these people working differently. Am I still able to support them in terms of their well-being through this. For some people, it will come naturally. For others, the desperation to achieve results may result in some poor outcomes, which isn't necessarily their fault. As I said before, none of us have been through anything like this before, but I think that's something to watch out for as a leader.
Yeah. And I think that's what the HR heads are more kind of, putting their brains to.
Yeah.
Another important aspect that I've been talking to others is the smoking areas. So, do you
Yes.
think they're talking to you about that too?
No, but I'm glad you brought it up, because I think one of the last times I actually smoked was in India a few years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
You are in the party mode.
Well, I remember the cigarette was it honeydew or gold leaf or something like that. It was quite a nice cigarette.
Gold flake.
That's it, gold flake. It's a great name for a cigarette. We could smoke all day if we wanted, and in fact, I used to many years ago. Have I got one? Have I got it here somewhere? Yes, I have. Here we go. Many years ago, I used to have one of these.
Wow.
And you could smoke a pipe, and I always thought that when you were training, having a pipe was quite good, because it would give you something to gesture with. You could sort of say. Now the thing is,
the dawn now.
Yeah, it's great. They're all gone. This is an ancient old thing. And I mean, I think that element of work, the kind of camaraderie and that type of thing is good. But you can do that on here, to some degree. If you're working from home, you can bring people together. They can have conversations. You could have breaks on here. We do quizzes on here most evenings with friends, and I mean, I've done enough quizzes now, frankly, but we do that. You can use virtual to have areas to have a laugh and have relaxation.
Tell us, what is Reality Training's 100-day plan? What is Jeremy, you and the team thinking about post the lockdown?
There's a few things, really. We were planning to have a really big party in June. I mean, it sounds very flippant to say that, but it was. We were going to celebrate with all our trainers in London. There's 2 or 3 big things that we're focusing on for the next period. So we will continue with our daily motivation and daily advice for free. That's what we're doing Monday to Friday. We will continue to do that regardless for anybody who wants it. So that's our commitment. We are also going to continue our transition to training virtually with our current clients. And in fact, that starts as early as next week. We've got some days next week where we're doing virtual training. And provided that goes well, I think that will become the norm. And what we need to do is then report to our other clients how that's going, so they understand that it's working well. But there may be further transitions, new software, new technology we may need to buy too. But the last thing we're doing, which is, I think, quite exciting, is we're now beginning to sell virtual products. So I said before, Jeremy and I used to speak at conferences. We're now doing our own online virtual conferences that we can sell to people on various subjects. And we've got quite large social media followings, which allows us to do that, which is really good. And actually, it's great fun, and it's a relatively short amount of time. And I think that's going to become interesting as well over the next few months. People are going to think, I want to be developed. I haven't got a half day or a whole day to spend on it, but actually I've got an hour and a half. I'll do that. And I think that will be the next thing, is developing a new revenue stream of virtual conferences and events that we can run on all sorts of subject matter. So that's going to be really interesting. And also, I should mention, risk of plugging. We've written this book, The Perfect Storm, 30 Ways to Drive Your Business. It's the 3rd edition. And we wrote the 1st edition in 2008 in the financial crisis. We did a new version in about 2014, something like that, and this is 2020. This even mentions the virus as well, so it's bang up to date.
What a timing.
And so, yeah, so we're promoting that as well. So there's lots of things that we can do for people and talk about. I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. And what is nice is that, you know, in Jeremy, I have someone who comes up with a new idea every day. So he will after this, he will be on to me saying, I've got this great idea. And we then think about how we can make it work, how we can make it viable, how we can make it accessible, all the things we need to find out. And it's brilliant. So that is exciting and motivational. And, you know, that's a great thing. I would love to say in the next 100 days, we were planning to come out to India. We were going to do some work with one of our clients out there, but that's been put on hold for now. But let's imagine a year down the line, there's a vaccine for this virus going around. We can all be vaccinated against it. And then I'll be over there like a shot. I've actually never been to Mumbai, so I'd need you to show me around, Raj. That would be great. And while I'm here, it's worth saying that that first trip we had to India all those years ago was one of the best experiences of our career to date.
Really?
Without doubt. Oh yeah, we absolutely loved it. I've got some wonderful memories of the work that we did, of the people, but also of the social environment that we had there. There was a place we used to go to called Striker's Bar that you all remember, and we loved it in there. And I tell you just a strange story. There's an Indian singer called Raghu Dixit who you may know. And he has done a few things over here in the UK, and I knew of him before we came out to India. And we were in Delhi for 10 days, and right in the middle of that 10 days, Raghu Dixit played Striker's Bar, okay? And we were in there with him. I shook his hand, and I just thought, only here. You know, I've actually met this guy who I've seen on the telly. He's an amazing singer. I love him. And I thought that was just fantastic. And I remember that night in that bar just thinking, this is just one of the best nights ever. And so we were very lucky to have that experience, but also to realize the massive potential that your wonderful country has. It really does. And, you know, nothing would give me greater pleasure than to come back there and work there again, because it was really motivational the whole time, and we had some great experiences. We were very well looked after, and we met some wonderful people who I'm still in touch with now, which shows that it's great.
You have to have an India strategy.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
definitely.
You cannot miss this bus.
No, but I think, and I think maybe that's the next thing. You know, if I'm sure there's a move towards virtual contact centers in India. You know, we can help with that, and I think that would be a good thing. And it is going to take some training, because as I said, it's not for everyone. But for those people that are confident, this virtual way of selling, I don't think there's any better nation that could do it than India. And that's, you know, that is a massive opportunity. And I think there's another element to that. Retail over here is struggling. We have major retail brands closing all over the UK because people are just not going shopping. They're doing a lot of online shopping. And I think the next retail revolution will be here, will be on the internet, face to face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the reason that I'm also talking to people like you is to give us some advice.
I think there's an old saying, affect what you can affect. So you can spend a lot of time working on stuff. If it's not moving you forward, don't do that. Just work on the stuff that you can affect. You can affect social media, how people feel about you. You can give stuff away. Give stuff away is a big thing, because people think, well, I don't want to give away my best stuff. Just give it. Just give it. Because people will appreciate it, and they will remember you, and they will come back to you when they really need important stuff. Give things away. Think about your network, because I tell you what else is interesting. Right now, the people who a few months ago you were struggling to get through to, new clients, new potential clients, at the moment, they're sitting at home waiting for this to end. They've got time. They've got time to talk. They've got time to meet new people. They've got time to explore new relationships. And I've had some great luck recently connecting to people who previously I'd had no chance with, because they're interested. They've got time to think about it. So you can build a brilliant strategy that's going to move you forward when things do ease up. That's really going to help you. And I think that's a great way to think about it. It's the prospects and what they're thinking about and the time that they have. Why not? They may as well talk to you. They may as well explore what you can do for them. And then lastly, self-development. We've done a lot of that recently. I did an online course, and I've been trying to write a book about my failed acting career. You know, you've got to do something which is separate. The only other thing I would say, over here, we had a big shift when the lockdown first happened, where supermarkets and other organizations, the National Health Service and others, needed volunteers. And I was thinking about volunteering for a while because we had a few weeks with nothing to do. But I thought, well, actually, the people who've just lost their jobs or been made redundant or whatever, they're the people who need the jobs that are going. Why, you know, if you have the time, why not try doing something else and helping another business for a while? No one's going to think any less of you for doing that, because it's an important contribution. And actually, sometimes it's good just to be busy. It's good just to keep yourself busy until such time as your business comes back, which it will. And have some faith.
Well, absolutely brilliant, Bob. Thank you so very much. First of all, accepting the invite.
You're welcome.
To us and sharing all your valuable experience. Well, one thing I want to say, that you are not a failed actor. I think you've really leveraged your skill set in a different way.
That's one way of looking at it. Yes, it is. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So, hey, looking forward to meet you when we can.
Yes.
I'll wait with a cigarette gold flake in Mumbai for you.
That'll be the next time I smoke, definitely. Definitely.
Absolutely. And do think about the India strategy, because that ways we can see you more often in India.
That'd be great. I'd love it. Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks very much, Raj. Much appreciated. And all the best to you all.
Well, thank you so much, and all the best to Reality Training as well.
Thanks, Raj.
Hi to Jeremy.
I will do.
Yeah. Cheers. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Affect what you can affect. Simple, but so powerful. Let's focus on what matters to us and what we can control. If we can do that, and we can put a plan around that, we will be super ready after the lockdown to hit the ground running. Tune in, guys. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, on Google, on Apple, and also don't forget to show your love to us. And do share our podcast with your friends, families. You never know who will get benefited out of these beautiful experiences and stories that we bring to you guys. So stay safe and stay connected. Cheers. Take care.